Hey, this is Joel and welcome back to the Traveler Toolkit. Today we have a fun project ahead of us because we're getting ready to head out on the road, and I have something that I have yet to do to this RV since I bought it about a year and a half ago, and that is upgrade the ventilation fan. Now you might be thinking, well, that sounds kind of silly. Why would you do that? Doesn't it already have a vent in the bathroom? The answer is yes, it does. But this vent is garbage. In fact, most factory vent fans are garbage. They're gonna crack, they're gonna break. In fact, this one came with a leak from the factory, so I have to replace mine, but I've actually done this same upgrade to every RV that I have owned over the last 8 years. And so today, I'm gonna show you how to upgrade your vent fan to something much, much better. This is the Maxxair Maxxfan Deluxe, and it is premium. It's got a remote control. We can do exhaust, we can do intake, we can turn it on and off with a remote. It will open and close its hatch electronically. So let's do this together. Let me show you how you can make this easy upgrade to make a big difference in your camper or RV and do it all yourself. All right, so let me quickly show you why we're gonna make this upgrade and why it's a worthy upgrade for every RV owner. Right there is our existing vent fan. And overall, there are much, much better options, including simply putting a cover on this. Now, I have a video from long ago showing how I did this on a different RV. In fact, it was on our Class A RV where we had 2 of these vents, and I simply added the Maxxair vent covers, which is better than just having the regular vent. If you have a fan, I would highly recommend just starting with the cover, and then that way you can open your vent cover when it's raining. And even though I've done this a half a dozen times, let me assure you, you can do this too. It's not as hard as it seems. So let's head down and look at all the tools we have ready to do this, and then we'll start tearing into this thing and getting the old vent out and the new vent on. All right, these are all the tools you're gonna need for the job here. Of course, we have a screw gun, then we have a scraper. That's gonna help us get the old sealant off, and we're gonna place that in this plastic bag. We have a degreaser and cleaner and some paper towels because you have to prep the surface for new sealant, which is right over here. We have 4 tubes of self-leveling sealant, and I will leave links in the description for all the supplies we're using so you can pick these up at eTrailer. This stuff is really easy to work with. You put it out there really thick and it levels out over all of the screw holes and everything. And then of course I've got a powered caulking gun that'll just make it a whole lot easier, but this is all you really need. All right, I know the lighting is a little bad up on top of the RV, but just bear with me. So the first thing we're gonna do is take this putty knife here and we're gonna pry up all this old sealant around the edge of the vent. That will reveal our screw head so we can unscrew it and pull everything through the roof here. You wanna make sure you use a putty knife with dull corners on it because you don't wanna damage the top of your RV if you happen to have a rubber roof. We do not. This is a solid roof, but if you have a rubber roof, you don't want to damage it. So slowly and patiently, let's start peeling this off. And you can use your trash bag here as you start to accumulate chunks. And as we take this off, you can begin to see the screw heads emerging there in the corner. Looks like one in the middle and one in the corner on each side. But just be patient, go slow, uncover everything so we can lift this off nice and easy. Okay, not so bad. In about 10 minutes, we've scraped off all of the sealant around the edge. And this is just kind of what I'm talking about here. Look at how many screws are in this. One in the middle, one in the corner, one on the side, one short, not one in the corner, one here, and look how many holes don't have screws. No screw, no screw, no screw. This is kind of what you get from the factory. Not 100% sure all those screws are necessary, but if there's a hole there, I'd rather have a screw holding my vent in. So now we have to go underneath and detach the trim and the wiring from there, and then we can pull this unit up. Okay, so back down here in the bathroom, we now want to just remove this trim piece that runs all the way around, and there are 4 screws here holding this in. It's actually just pretty easy to take them out. And we want to save this trim because even though the new one comes with trim, this one is already cut for the depth of our ceiling. So I prefer to just reuse it. Looks like my 4th one is missing. So now I can just pull this down, nice and easy. And this is what you have here, just a piece of trim. We'll set this aside. And you can also see the wiring that we're gonna need to go ahead and disconnect. So we wanna turn off all the electricity to the rig, disconnect these, and then we will be ready to pull this vent up through the ceiling. Now we can just simply use our screw gun to remove all of these screws carefully. Make sure we get every one. You might have to dig some caulking out or sealant out of each one before you get it. And gee, I wonder which screw is leaking. Maybe it's this one covered in rust here, with the hole covered in rust. This is from the factory, folks, so some upgrades are worth it. Okay, so now the electricity to the rig is off, and we can just simply undo these clips here, and these clips can be reused. These are coming from the fan down to the box. So we'll keep these to the side, and these are going to go up with us. Okay, now that I've verified twice that we are completely disconnected, I'm going to use this for a little extra help, my putty knife, to make sure everything is clean underneath and begin to slowly kind of lift our current vent up. There is some caulking down underneath, which we just want to break the seal of. Now we feel loose. Slowly, carefully. We can lift this off here. And now that we've removed the old vent, the most important thing is cleaning up the surface and prepping it for the new. So we've got a lot of ooey gooey, sticky things in here. We're gonna use our putty knife and also our degreaser to clean this off and make sure it is perfect and ready for the new vent and the new seal. This stuff is so sticky. No affiliation, but I have found this solvent stuff from PPC works really well on goo and gunk like this. Okay, it wasn't quick and it wasn't easy, but now it is completely clean. You can see there we have a nice clean surface for the new vent to adhere to and the new caulking and sealant to lay down nice and easy. All right, so let's take a quick look at what came in the box with the Maxxfan. So right here, you have the mounting bracket. This will mount on the roof of the RV. You'll see we have our screw holes here, mounting all the way around, and then you have your screws. Now these bubble top screws, as I'm going to call them, are what's going to mount here because they'll be covered up, and then you have these little flat top white screws. Those are for the trim on the inside. Some electrical connectors which we won't need because we have them on the inside. This is the inside trim that, remember, we already have a piece of perfectly cut for our ceiling depth. So this from here to here is pretty tall, and you're normally going to have to trim this all the way around for your specific depth of ceiling. And so in our case, ours is cut down around here. So there's no real reason to cut this one because it's identical. But unless it doesn't fit with this fan, we might have to do that. We'll see. But then once we mount this to the roof of the RV, then our Maxxfan just sets right on top of it. You'll see there are all the components, and it sets on top of, and right inside there you have some screw heads that will attach to these little bits right here. So really all you have to do is mount this part. It's not all in one. Then set the fan on here and attach it with these 4 screws on the side. So let's go ahead and get our attachment frame up on the roof and lay down some silicone sealant, screw it in there. And before we go to the next step, let me quickly tell you about today's sponsor, eTrailer. They provided this fan, and if you're looking for anything that goes on, in, or around your RV, eTrailer has it. Everything from fans to windows to doors to blinds, sleeping bags, grills. I can't even come up with everything off the top of my head because they have so many useful things. And I've been using eTrailer to upgrade my RVs for the last decade, long before they were sponsors on this channel. So I will leave a link down below to their website along with this fan on eTrailer's website where you can pick it up if you're wanting to take on the same project. But thanks to eTrailer for sponsoring this video. Okay, so we have our bracket, and we just want to make sure that it fits into our hole, but also that our metal clips are on the side, not on the back and the front. We want it to run this direction so that the vent clips are on the side. So we're just going to fit it into our hole here. It does fit. And really quick, I'm just going to take a pencil and I'm going to mark out the rough opening of this on here, if I can make any kind of mark. Because we're going to go back and we're going to put sealant around this opening. And we have a rough idea of where it is. Sealant around this opening. This is silicone sealant to seal off all the underneath in case water does penetrate the self-leveling sealant. We have a backup. So let's go ahead and put a nice thick bead on there. Nice and continuous. Truly, this is my first time using this tool, and I'm already hooked. I want to make sure we have enough over here in this corner. Okay, so again, we've got it. Metal clips on the sides. We're just going to set it down in there. And a little squeeze out is okay, because we're going to run a bead around the outside edge, wipe up any excess, and make sure that it's completely sealed underneath before we go over top with the self-leveling sealant. And you kind of see that extra that I put under there is coming out. That's good. That just gives me a nice barrier. There's only a few spots where I didn't have squeeze out, so I might just run a bead in my finger around it. Then we'll put self-leveling sealant on top. Now that we're in the hole, I've got our screws. And we already have sealant coming up through the holes, so we don't need to do much more there. And no need to over torque these. We just want these snub. All right, perfect. Every hole is sealed, and each hole has some extra silicone sticking out. I don't think I need to do anything else, but all this will get covered with the self-leveling sealant. So no matter how it looks, it's just going to get covered up. So even though it's probably unnecessary, I have gone around and added a dab of silicone on top of every screw and a bead along the outside. Not super pretty, but doesn't have to be because it's going to be covered up and it's got to be on a roof. But we will let all this dry and cure before we put our self-leveling sealant on top. Okay, so I gave our caulking some time to cure. Now I'm going to go over top of it with our self-leveling sealant, and I want to cover all of our caulking bits and overlap at least an inch on the outside. There's no right or wrong way to do this as long as you get it covered and keep it clean here. So we just want to kind of cut a big hole in the end of the tube here and just go slow. Make sure we get full coverage because it is going to even out. And you can see how it's already starting to flatten here. So we just want to keep going around in the same area, just work our way down. And that is 1 tube. So I estimated I would need 2. I brought 3 up with me, and it looks like 1 tube went pretty far. So let's get the second tube. And now we can go back and fill in these spots where we left some voids. I'm gonna have to readjust my position to see a little better. But yeah, that's what the second and third rounds are for, is just filling in gaps and letting it all level out. And what did I tell you? Let it set for 15 minutes and this is the result. This self-leveling stuff covers a multitude of sins. You really can't do it wrong. The only wrong way to do it is not use enough. So now we just want to make sure that our metal clips are in place, which they are. And we can set our vent on top, which is already up here with me. The instructions say to twist this knob so that the fan is all the way out before you put it down on top. And we want to make sure that our vent faces the rear of the coach so that it doesn't get ripped off. If you're facing forward, then it could get ripped off in transit, but backwards you can leave it up during transit. We'll make sure that our cables go down the middle and just set this very carefully into place. Now we just have to put in a couple screws on each side, which I'm going to do by hand, just to be careful. There it is. Look how pretty that turned out. Everything looks great. Now we just need to go inside and button up those controls and wiring, and we'll be done. And just a look from another angle here, you can see the vent on the bottom, and this will retract and go down. The black part will lay flat when it's retracted, and even while it's open, you can vent intake or exhaust, and rain will not get into your rig. And inside here, it just could not get any easier. All we're gonna do is connect positive to positive and neutral to neutral. Check it, and we are connected. We are ready to turn on the power and check out the job that we did. Okay, power's back on, and we are gonna go ahead and click the open button down here. You will see our vent is opening. Perfect. And we will try fan right here, fan on off. And the fan works. Increase speed right here in the middle. 60, 70, 80. That's 100% speed right there. It's a lot of air. Oh, it feels good because it's hot in here. Air in, we're slowing down. Now, if we want to turn the fan off for a second, it auto closes. I like that. Now let's switch the direction. We're going to do air in, air out now, it says. We're going to turn it on. All you do is hit power, it opens automatically. And now it's exhausting. Yeah, pulling air out. Much different. So I got a two-way fan. I have full control on my remote. The auto open on the top. It's just a beautiful thing. And to ensure we can always find our remote, they have this little wall mount bracket that we're going to mount right here. So it looks like that. Just 2 little included screws, and we will have that set and ready to go. So we're going to center it on the switch here. Make sure we're level. There's 2. And now that remote will never be lost. Okay, our final step is the trim. And remember earlier when I said I'll just keep this piece and reuse it? Well, I can't, because the location of these holes does not match the location of these holes and where they're supposed to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down. I've measured from the bottom of my fan to the bottom of the ceiling, and it's 1 inch. So the instructions say add 1/4 to 1/2. So I'm gonna cut these 1.5 inches, and that should be just perfect. And rather than do it the hard way, let me do some magic for you. Ready? Here we go. And boom. See? That was easy. Now we're cut to the correct height. And don't forget, we are using these tiny little decorative screws that are white on the end here. We have 4 of them. Okay, just doing a test fit here. Have to fit it past our wires and slide it right up in there. Oh, it's absolutely perfect. Holds its place. We're just gonna tack in these screws. Mwah! It's a thing of beauty. See, that wasn't really that hard, was it? I mean, maybe it was to you. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if it really was harder than you thought. But for me, this is an easy upgrade. It's gonna make your life on your trips so much better, especially if you're replacing an exhaust fan that is in a living area. Big bunkhouses, fifth wheels, sometimes have fans in the bathroom and a living area. And if you get a fan like this in your living area that doesn't just exhaust and suck air out, but brings air in, you can kind of create that circular air movement, and it feels so much more comfortable without having to run the AC all the time. Great for being off grid, which we will be in this camper some this summer. So make sure you come back for that. My name is Joel. This is the Traveler Toolkit, and I will see you in the next video.